Hello and welcome to the WIHS Journal, Public Affairs from 104.9 FM. I'm Paul Kretschmer. Today and tomorrow, I'll be speaking with Ron Price. He'll be telling us about some of the things he's written about in his relationship books about marriage. I asked him first on our broadcast today whether he meant to insinuate that husbands and wives don't understand how to get along.
Oh, Paul, I would never suggest such a thing. How dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you ask such a thing?
Well, all right. In that case, clarify what you mean by that then.
No, you know that, Paul. You know the problem? Everybody makes the same problem when they get married. They marry a human being. And while I'm trying to be comical there, I'm being serious. You're marrying an imperfect human being who's no more perfect than you are. And to think that two imperfect people can forge a perfect relationship where there'll never be any discouragement or difficulty, that's foolhardy. That's not going to happen.
That is true, but I think you may be the first person I've ever encountered who was actually able or challenged to encapsulate that concept as succinctly as you did.
Well, thank you so much. I'm honored.
Yeah, because I think all of us have bits and pieces of that, but maybe we don't put it together well enough to really understand what's going on, and so maybe that's the reason why we end up in counseling, trying or hoping that someone will be able to supply the missing links or the keys that we don't have in our toolbox already to open the life that we are choosing or want at least to live anyway.
And Paul, let me tag into that just for a moment, if I may. I have never liked the term premarital counseling. To me, it implies you're neurotic, psychotic, or schizophrenic because you want to get married. The term I like better is premarital preparation. You know, if you want to drive a car, you need to get a license. Well, you need to prove that you know how to drive a car before they'll give a license. In most states, if you want to go hunting, you need a license, and before you get that license, you have to prove that you're prepared to be a hunter. Well, most states require marriage licenses, yet very few require premarital preparation, and I think we're paying the price for that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you use the analogy of a sandbox. Are you implying that most of us are childish enough, or perhaps at least leaning in that direction, that maybe when people observe us, that's what it looks like?
You know, I don't know. I should have a great answer for that, Paul, and I don't. It just hit me one day. I started life in Rhode Island, as we were sharing off air. I now live in New Mexico, and people say, "Where did you grow up?" I say, "I'm trying to do it in Farmington, New Mexico." I don't want to grow up. I want to remain childlike. Now, I want to be an adult. I want to be responsible. Don't take that too far, but you know, we grow up and we forget to laugh and forget to enjoy life. And I just think the sandbox is a good analogy. Remember some of the things we got to do as kids and the fun we had, and I think we can still do that to some extent.
I sure do, although at the age of 64 and a half, that's receding further and further into my rearview mirror, and pretty soon I'm going to have to turn around with a magnifying glass into the mirror to actually recognize that I was actually there.
Yeah, you're old enough to be my younger brother, so respect your elders. That's all I have to say.
Well, thank you, Ron. I appreciate that. I often run into the problem more often than I would like to admit, but I'm going to be plain here and say sometimes I treat people around me better than I do the person who's the most important person in my life on earth at home. She doesn't get the kind of respect or the kind of civility from me sometimes when I'm under stress.
Yeah.
That people in other words, I can have a bad morning or a bad weekend and go to work and, you know, appear normal to the colleagues I have here at the office or relatively normal to the guests I have on broadcasts like this. But I haven't treated my own spouse as well as I'm treating other people.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, Paul, I wrote a chapter L2 is mind your P's and T's. And you're so right. We say please and thank you and you're welcome to total strangers. Mm-hmm. People we've never seen before, we'll never see again. We're courteous to them. Yep. And we don't give those common courtesies to the people that we live with. And as you said, the most important to us. And I mean, we all do it, but it's not right. And I just would hope that, for myself, and it sounds like for you, that we'd be more aware, more conscious of that we're going to treat the people in our homes the way they deserve to be treated.
I would characterize that as having a greater sense of situational awareness
Yeah.
So that, for instance, using myself as an example, I would have a greater sense of where I'm at and who I'm with, and act lovingly as Jesus would have me do accordingly.
Yeah. Paul, you just gave me a thought, and thank you for that. How would you like it if somebody was rude to your wife? You saw somebody being rude to your wife. How would you like it?
I would be really defensive on her behalf, and more likely than not to want to smack the person that is treating her that way. It gets back to that sort of thing. We can attack each other sometimes.
Yes.
But if someone else does it, it's not okay.
That's exactly right. So how about if we set out, we want to treat our spouses and our kids, our family, the way we want others to treat them? That's an interesting twist on the golden rule, if you will. We want to treat the people in our life. We would not put up with other people being rude to them.
Nope.
Or whatever, negative in ways. And so, then we can't do it either. So
I've heard from people a lot over the years that when it comes to living on a day-to-day basis with people that we may have run-ins with, or they may have run-ins with us, that there's a concept we should forgive and forget that it ever happened. And I'm fine with the forgiving part. I've gone through a celebration recovery course myself before, and I understand the concept of forgiveness. But one of the concepts that's propagated within CR is that we forgive people whether they will accept it or not, whether they want it or not. And sometimes it's a matter of forgiving them so we can release ourselves from the chain of anger or misery or whatever the case may be. And that doesn't mean that I forget it necessarily. My brain, like the brains of a lot of people, stores up a lot of stuff. But it's not going to be front and center. It's going to be tucked way back in my head where I'm less likely to reference it unless there's an applicable moment. In other words, I'm not going to carry it around all the time. I'll only access it if it actually has value at a given moment in a situation that comes along later.
Yeah. Paul, you're spot on. That expression, forgive and forget, I put it up there with sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
Boy, isn't that the truth?
I mean, come on. We were told some dumb things when we were kids. What can we say? But yeah, you're right. To forget is brain damage. Our brains are amazing. God had made us in such a way that we retain. If I asked you to think of your first or second grade teacher, odds are you could come up with a picture in your mind and the name within seconds. Most people can.
Sure can.
It's not forgive and forget. It's forgive and move on.
Ah, there's the difference
Forgive
right there,
on.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's another great story. Let me throw it in. Do we have a moment for it?
Absolutely.
This church lady had been wronged grievously by a fellow church member, and she decided to forgive. And so she told a friend, I've decided to forgive. And the friend said, what? How can you forgive? Don't you remember what she did to you? And the lady said, no, I specifically remember forgetting that.
That sounds similar to an attribute that we attribute to God sometimes, which is He forgives us, and then and as the story goes, then he posts a sign that says no fishing.
Yep, throws him in the sea and says no fishing. That's right.
That's right.
That's right. Yep.
Early in my married relationship, a long time ago, we won't say how long ago, my spouse had a sticker on the refrigerator that said halt. And she taught me or told me what that meant. What does that mean for you, aside from the fact that it's an acronym for 4 different things that may go on in someone's life?
Yeah, probably the same as your wife. A smart lady put that up there. And again, it goes back to why do we sometimes get testy with those that we're around so much? HALT stands for hungry, angry, lonely, and tired.
Ron Price will continue his discussion of the term HALT. For further information, call us at 860-346-1049. The opinions expressed are those of the participants, not necessarily those of the staff or management of the station. I'm Paul Kretschmer on the WIHS Journal, Public Affairs from WIHS, Middletown.